Hi, my name is Shauna, and I'm doing a presentation on the Orang Asli people of Malaysia. Before Malaysia, they would call it Malay, and it became independent on August 31st, 1957. The first Prime Minister of Malaya was Tunku Abdul Rahman. In 1963, Singapore joined Malaya to form Federation of Malaysia. The origins of the Orang Asli. The first signs of human life found in present-day Malaysia was a skull found in Sarawak in the 1950s. Proto-Malays were believed to have migrated from southwest China, eventually traveling to Indonesia. They have been found to be related to people in Sumatra, Java, and parts of the Philippines. The Orang Asli are indigenous people of peninsular Malaysia. There are 18 Orang Asli tribes. They are distributed into three main groups, the Semang, Sonoy, and Proto-Malay, and there are 6 tribes in each group. The largest group are the Sonoys, contributing to 54% of the Orang Asli population. The Proto-Malays forming 43%, and Semang form 3%. There are 150,000 Orang Asli people. Asli means original people. Their activities include hunting, fishing, and agriculture. The housing infrastructure of the Orang Asli is inadequate and does not meet the basic public health needs. The root cause of poor health was found to be multifactorial. Factors such as educational shortcomings, poverty, shared crowded households, and harsh environmental conditions contributed to a lower quality of life as compared to the general population. There are 62% of Orang Asli school children that drop out of school. 94% do not go beyond upper secondary level. 395 Orang Asli have achieved third level education. This figure is expected to increase every year. The Orang Asli and the land are very close. Their spiritual income and livelihood are from the forest. Identity and relationships is important to the Orang Asli. It means for them to be human. The main core of Orang Asli way of life is their relation toward the jungle. All different aspects are connected to the forest. The Orang Asli don't use any kind of electricity or machinery in their daily lives. They chose a life free of pollution, free of machinery and technology. They also chose a life to limited education and healthcare. They rely on sources to live by eating potatoes, and they trade rattan and sandalwood for rice and salt. They don't have much money, but what they do have is the knowledge about the jungle, and it has sustained their society. They go hunting and they collect the jungle fruits. They sell it and they keep it. They are being denied access to land that they have settled on for generations, simply because they don't know how to stake a claim in the land. The majority of the Orang Asli practice traditional animism religion, which means spirit or life, where every living creature or natural object possesses a distinct soul. The religion is tied to the relation to nature. The Orang Asli is coveted by powerful interests for its timber and minerals into oil palm or rubber plantations. Prime Minister Tunku Abdul replied, "There is no doubt that the Malays were the indigenous people of this land because the original inhabitants did not have any form of civilization. Instead lived like primitives in mountains and thick jungle. Orang Asli ancestors settled on the Malay Peninsula long before the predecessors of contemporary Malays. The government has pursued a policy of assimilation to turn Orang Asli into Malay Muslims, and in process, eradicate the category of Aboriginal peoples in Malaysia. In the first millennium AD, the Orang Asli were the primary suppliers of forest products such as rattan, bamboo, resins, ivory, and other animal parts in the maritime trade that linked Southeast Asia to markets in China and India and the Middle East. During the opening of the country in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, forests were treated as if weeds to be cleared and transformed into tin mines and plantations. After the Second World War, the forest abodes became strategically important in the fight against communist insurgents who mostly operated from jungle camps. Slave raids into the Orang Asli were quite common in the 18th and 19th century. These slave raiders were mainly local Malays and Bataks who considered them as non-humans, savages, and jungle beasts. The captive slaves were sold off or given to local rulers and chiefs to gain their favor. Slave trade developed and continued into the present century, despite the official abolition of all forms of slavery in 1884. The emergency led to the creation of the Department of the Orang Asli Affairs and passing of the Aboriginal Peoples Act in 1954. Originally enacted during the height of the emergency, the Aboriginal Act basically served to prevent communist insurgents getting help from the Orang Asli. While the Act provides for the establishment of the Orang Asli and their reserves, it also grants the state authority the right to order any Orang Asli community to leave and stay out of an area. The government recognized they needed to stop and prevent the Orang Asli from working with communists, so they began to force resettlement and recruit Orang Asli into the military. The Orang Asli are fighting for ancestral land in Malaysia. The forests that they depend on are owned by the Malaysian government. Only few areas are recognized as ancestral forests belonging to the indigenous tribes. What they are going through is that they have blockades and they're trying to protect their forests from logging companies that are assessing forests. The local government has granted it permission to cut their forests. And I think it's the same thing, quite similar to what the Indigenous are going through in Canada here. They're fighting for their lands, and they're basically tenants on their own lands. They don't have ownership of the land. Oh, very few Orang Asli have ownership of the land, and the Aboriginal Peoples Act only provides for usufructory rights, or rights to use land and its resources. This results in the vast majority of Orang Asli essentially being tenants on their traditional lands. And this is all the information that I have for you. And